Good evening, and thank you for watching. If you rely on clear facts, accountability, and real explanations behind the headlines, make sure you subscribe to the channel right now so you never miss an important breakdown like this.
Ms. McIver is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member. A lot has been said, and I expect a lot more will be said about the department's interaction with members of this body when it comes to oversight. But this is not about me. Madam Secretary, it's not every day we have a cabinet member before this committee. As you know, the members of this committee have constitutional oversight responsibility for your department, and there are many things regarding this administration's Homeland Security policies that require our immediate attention. That is the work I am here to do today and every day. Secretary, this committee and the American people deserve answers for the actions of the Department of Homeland Security under this administration and the policies that have been put into place. The department has overseen a regime of cruelty, chaos, and deep disregard for human dignity, all under the pretense of security. The department is being mismanaged, and its policies undermine our nation's values. This does not make us safer. The exact opposite, exactly. Secretary, we need answers about your department's union busting at TSA, deporting U.S. citizens, terminating the legal status of international students for no apparent reason, and disregarding the rule of law. None of these issues at your department exist in a vacuum. In fact, they are all fundamentally connected to the administration's overarching cruelty. We want to hear from you because we are hoping you can make it make sense for us. Because with all due respect, we are all trying to understand why in the world this is taking place. In my district and around this nation, countless international students had their visas revoked without due process, without warning, and without any regard for how this would devastate their lives. These are students who came here to learn, to build their futures, and join our workforce, only to have the rug pulled out from under them by this department's actions. How can we expect international students to trust our institutions and contribute to our economy when we treat them like they've done something wrong just because they are here? Are we no longer the home of the American dream? I also want you to understand DHS's impact on our entire workforce. I proudly represent over 1,000 dedicated TSA workers who had the right to unionize. But that right has been stripped away by your department. This is an attack on the people who safeguard our skies and whose dedication we rely on now more than ever. And the destruction doesn't stop there. I represent communities that live in constant fear each and every day. Families too terrified to step outside and send their kids to school, go grocery shopping, or take a trip to the doctor because of the harassment of ICE and Homeland Security. This isn't public safety, it's state-sponsored fear. I understand that this administration believes that it is its business to scare people into submission and act alone with no regard for the law to decide who is worthy to live in this country or not. However, it is this committee's business to make sure your department is held accountable and to get the American people the answers they've been looking for. So, with that, Madam Secretary, I have a few yes or no questions. Do you agree that revoking student visas without notice can cause fear and confusion among international students? Yes or no?
Congressman, I do not.
Congresswoman, but yes or no?
Congresswoman, I do not decide legal status or visa programs for
I'll
students.
take that as a yes. Do you support restoring full collective bargaining rights for TSA employees? Yes or no?
Ma'am, currently today TSA does not have the
yes or
ability
no
to unionize.
Okay, take that as a no. Do you believe that TSA workers should make a livable wage? Yes or no?
Yes, TSA workers are critically important to
Thank
our
you for
security
that. Are you
systems for our
aware
airlines.
that recent student visa revocations occur without due process or proper notification?
Ma'am, I don't make a determination of status.
Yes or
the
no?
Department of State does
I'm guessing
that.
you don't know? Okay. Do you believe that TSA workers have the right to better workplace conditions?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
TSA
great. Thank you for
workers
that.
are incredibly
Do you
important
believe
to
that
our-
students should have an opportunity to appeal before their visas are revoked? Yes or no?
All processes are followed and that are set out as tools.
I'm guessing
and
it's a no. Okay,
processes
one
in
more
this
last question in
Congress.
9 seconds. Do you believe that that revoking collective bargaining rights for TSA workers affects their morale and job performance? Yes or no?
I believe TSA is critically important
Okay,
in
I'll
the
take
future
that
and
as
that they have been.
maybe you don't know, maybe it's yes or no.
Gentlelady's time
With
has
that,
expired. I
with
now
that,
recognize
yield.
Mr. Gonzalez for 5 minutes of his.
Today, a rare and tense moment unfolded on Capitol Hill as Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem appeared before Congress for a high-stakes oversight hearing. Cabinet officials do not come before this committee often, and when they do, it is usually because serious questions demand serious answers. From the very start, the tone was unmistakable. This was not about political theater or personal grievances. Lawmakers made it clear that this was about constitutional oversight and the real-world consequences of policies coming out of the Department of Homeland Security. The member speaking wasted no time. She reminded Secretary Noem that Congress has a constitutional duty to oversee DHS, not as a courtesy, but as a safeguard for the American people. And according to her, that safeguard is failing. Before we go any further, if you want reporting that goes beyond soundbites and helps you actually understand what is happening inside government, take a second to subscribe. It helps the channel and keeps you informed. At the heart of the criticism was a sweeping accusation that DHS under this administration is being mismanaged and that its policies are not making the country safer, but more chaotic and more cruel. Those are strong words, but they were backed by a list of specific and deeply troubling claims. Lawmakers pointed to what they described as a pattern of cruelty carried out under the banner of national security, not isolated incidents, but interconnected decisions that together paint a picture of an agency operating without transparency or accountability. One of the most alarming issues raised was union busting at the Transportation Security Administration. TSA workers are often the front line of Homeland Security, yet the department has been accused of undermining their collective bargaining rights. Critics argue that weakening worker protections does not strengthen security, it weakens morale, staffing, and ultimately public safety. Another issue raised was the deportation of United States citizens. That is not a rhetorical claim. There have been documented cases where citizens were wrongfully detained or deported due to bureaucratic failures. When the agency responsible for enforcing immigration law cannot correctly identify who is legally a citizen, it raises serious questions about competence and due process. If this kind of accountability reporting matters to you, don't forget to subscribe so you can stay informed as these stories develop. The hearing also focused on the sudden termination of legal status for international students. Lawmakers said countless students had their visas revoked without warning, explanation, or an apparent legal basis. These are students who were attending American universities, contributing to local economies, and following the rules. For many viewers, this is where the issue becomes deeply human. International students often invest their life savings to study in the United States. When their legal status is abruptly revoked, they can lose housing, education, employment, and years of effort overnight. Lawmakers demanded to know how such sweeping actions could occur without transparency or individualized review. The committee also accused DHS of disregarding the rule of law itself. That is perhaps the most serious charge of all. The rule of law means the government must follow its own rules, respect court orders, and provide due process. When an agency appears to operate first and explain later or not at all, it undermines public trust. Throughout the questioning, one theme kept coming up. None of these issues exist in isolation. Union suppression, wrongful deportations, visa terminations, and legal shortcuts are all connected. Critics argue they stem from an overarching philosophy that prioritizes harsh enforcement over human dignity and lawful procedure. And this is where lawmakers pressed Secretary Noem hardest. They were not simply asking for explanations, they were asking her to make it make sense, to explain how these actions align with American values, constitutional principles, and actual security outcomes. If you appreciate coverage that connects policy decisions to real human consequences, make sure you subscribe subscribe right now so you do not miss future updates. As the hearing continues, the big question remains unanswered. Will the Department of Homeland Security provide clear explanations and course corrections, or will these concerns continue to pile up without accountability? We will keep following this story closely. If you want clear, contextual reporting that helps you understand not just what happened, but why it matters, subscribe to the channel and stay with us for ongoing coverage.